Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
Okay then, well, good afternoon. You are listening to a News, Views and Interviews special debate for the Splott by-election, which is taking place next Thursday, the 5th of December, following the resignation of Councillor Luke Holland. There's also a by-election taking place in the Riverside ward, and candidates from that by-election will be coming in to chat to Sam Shorty on her show and also Georgina on the Breakfast Show over the next few days. So stay locked in for that one if you are a Riverside resident. Now, the debate today is interactive, so if any listeners have any questions or comments, please join in. And there's a number of ways you can do that. You can either text us on 07728 758 759, or you can call us on the hotline on 02920 235 664, or you can email us via shouts, that's SHOUTS, at radiocardiff.org. Now, over the last couple of days, I have invited Splott residents to email me any questions that they have for the candidates. So we do have a few questions to put to the candidates directly from your potential voters. I also have to point out to those who don't know that I'm also a resident of Splott, so I'm very interested in all the candidates from a voter's point of view, as well as obviously chairing the debate today. So to get on, we'll start by introducing the candidates. I'm doing this alphabetically, so there is absolutely no bias here whatsoever. We'll start off with Ellis John. Hi, Ellis.
Hello.
We've also got Jamie. He's an independent.
Yes.
We've also got Jamie Matthews over there.
Hello.
Who is from the Liberal Democrats. And we have got Ed Stubbs, who is from the Labour Party. Hi, Ed.
Hiya.
And we've also got Catherine Williams, who is the Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition candidate. Hi.
Hiya.
Hi. Right. We also have apologies from Daniel Mason, who is the Conservative candidate, and he can't be here today due to work commitments. But I do have a prepared statement from him that I will read out in due course. Now, to get things started, I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves to the listeners, and you will each have 2 minutes. And I have to be strict with the time, obviously, and also no interruptions, please. Basically, to tell the listeners all about yourself. Okay, so we'll go in alphabetical order as well on this one. We'll start off with Ellis John. Over to you, Ellis.
Okay, hi. I'm Ellis John. I'm a resident of Habershon Street in Splott. Been there for about 15-20 years, I think, in total. All the family have grown up there, all the kids have grown up there, they've all gone to school and all the rest of it. I've been a Splott pool swimmer for 15 years, so I've been tramping up and down 5 days a week in Splott pool, swimming every day, really, thereabouts as much, if not every other day. And I'm standing, really, because I didn't know what the other option was to do, to be honest. I didn't want to vote Labour, and I didn't want to vote Lib Dem, and I also seen the kind of gradual rundown of Splott pool, so that's my main reason. It's not been kind of political, it's been more as a resident who's not best pleased with what's been going on around our area, so that was the main reason. But to be truthful, I probably didn't know what I was letting myself in for, but here I am. Yeah, so I've kind of got a election. The main drive behind it for me is actually for the sustainability of Splott pool, whether that's the hub, whether that's the actual refurbishment of Splott pool. But on top of that, I'm also really concerned about what happens on the intermediate time, the time between when any proposed new hub gets built, any new Splott pool gets refurbished, then actually what happens to our infrastructure. Do we all shut it down for 2 years and then we haven't got anything around us, all on the promise of, I call it the Empire Pool promise, because we all remember what happened there. Yes, so it's kind of to protect our infrastructure that we have now, because I think in Splott we've got we've got a lot of collateral in there. We've got a lot of densely packed houses together. We've got a lot of council tax going in there, and we really deserve a little bit more than we're getting at the moment. I wanted to look at developing kind of community arts, and that's in the area as well. And just make the place a better environment, really.
OK, then, well, John, thank you for that. Next up, we're over to Jamie Matthews. Hi.
Hello, I'm Jamie Matthews. I'm the Liberal Democrat candidate in the election. I was born and brought up in South Wales myself. I'm 29 years old, looking at 30, coming very quickly. I went to Cardiff University, and then I moved to Leeds for a job, where I did a stint on the local council up there, and then I moved back to be near my family, which was always the plan. And I live in Splott. I live on Asgog Street. I, as a day job, work for a disability charity representing people with multiple sclerosis. I too, like Ellis, I'm concerned about the swimming pool. I'm concerned about the leisure facilities in general in the area. Local people need leisure facilities as a priority, and in particular young people in the area need stuff to do, and that's very clear when you talk to local people. Other than that, I'm also interested in cleaning up the local environment. I think the area's been let down by the local council for many years. I think the streets need cleaning up. There's far too much fly tipping, there's too much dog mess, and we've got some serious problems, and that they all need sorting out. I'm also interested in social services provision. I would like to see more voice and control for people who use social services, so that's a big issue of mine.
OK. Sorry, I have to ask, what's voice and control?
It's basically the people who use social services, who need social services, actually have a control over their services rather than being told what they need by the council.
OK, thank you for just clarifying that point for us. Thank you. Right, next up we've got Ed Stubbs from the Labour Party. Over to you, Ed.
Hiya, I'm Ed Stubbs. I'm a Labour candidate. Until very recently, I lived in the Tremorfa part of the ward, and for many years, and I know the ward quite well. And that's really why I'm standing, because for many years I've campaigned in the ward on a number of issues, including to save Tremorfa Nursery, against the incinerator, and to save our post office back in 2008. Coupled with the fact that I think that the Labour Party, in very tough times in Cardiff, are taking some firm steps to secure services in our ward. But let's not forget the background to this election, and the background is some very severe cuts coming from central government, which are having a huge effect on services in Splott. It's a twofold effect, really. It's firstly that there's less money to spend, and secondly that policies such as the cuts and specific policies such as the bedroom tax having a tremendous impact on the number of people needing to access our services. Many more people are needing to access social services, so they less money to spend, more people needing to access these services. What the message we're trying to say to people in Splott is that we are trying to protect these services from these cuts by bringing in better services, rationalising into hubs, and with that, and this is a choice in this election. It's a stark choice between a Labour Party that has, for many years, got activists who have defended our nurseries, reopened our day centres, versus a more cynical angle from other national parties who are suggesting that cuts must happen nationally, but they will have no effect in Splott.
OK then, Ed, thank you for that. And then finally over to Catherine Williams. Hi.
Hi, thanks. And I'm standing as the Trade Unionists and Socialist Coalition candidate, and I think it's very important. The trade unions have been leading the opposition to the government's cuts, not just by exposing how wrong the cuts are, but actually arguing for the alternative. There is a real alternative to making cuts. There's £120 billion in unpaid, avoided and evaded tax every year. That should be collected. We could scrap Trident. We could actually create jobs rather than actually having armies of unemployed claiming benefits. And actually that's what we need, is actually a political alternative arguing the same thing. We need politicians to actually campaign for the alternative. If banks are too big to fail, then so are our communities, and that's what we need. And we've had it very clearly from Cameron that austerity is here to stay. It's not the economic situation that's causing austerity, it's political drive to cut our services and cuts our communities. And certainly the poverty in our areas is absolutely disgraceful. We have loads of people going to food banks. Splott is amongst the fourth highest unemployment in the city, and we really need the facilities. And we need all our facilities. We need the Star Centre, and we need Splott Pool. We need leisure facilities, and we need services in that area. But we also need councillors who challenge the cuts. And rather than actually wringing our hands and saying there's nothing we can do, actually we need to really look at what we need to do to provide those services. Look at prudential borrowing. Look at actually using the reserves of the council. Actually looking at focusing spending on people's needs and on prestige projects, and use the skill of the council workforce. They know how to provide services. We don't need consultants, and actually we don't need very highly paid council executives to tell us how to provide those services. The workforce can do that for us. We need to look at the councillors' allowances. Over £1 million a year is spent on councillors' allowances. There's all things like that that can be looked at. And, there shouldn't be evictions for the bedroom tax as well, because actually homelessness costs more than actually leaving people in their homes. So we want to build a mass campaign alongside campaigning for actually no cuts in the city at all.
OK then, well, thank you for that, Catherine. Right, now finally I am going to read out a prepared statement from Daniel Mason. I did have to edit a couple of things out of there, but it's pretty much intact. Now this is what Daniel has to say. I am a former solicitor and live in the Splott ward. I am active in the community, volunteering locally, and work as a researcher and speechwriter for Assembly member William Graham. I have a keen interest in local concerns, particularly with the announcement to close Splott Pool and the threat to the leisure centre. The people of Splott deserve better than this. Last year, Cardiff Council decided to recruit 11 new corporate directors, earning between £120,000 and £130,000 a year. Frankly, I see this as an act of lunacy. The new jobs were first suggested by Labour under a cloud of controversy. This move followed a reduction in senior management at Council just a few years ago. Recruiting a team of high-flying, overpaid execs at a time when everyone else is tightening the purse strings is pure madness. This is money that can be used for community services such as the Splott Pool or public services. One new fat cat executive would be bad enough. 2 would be unacceptable. 11 is lunacy. This Labour council is a prime example of why the party should never be given control of Britain's purse strings again. Taxpayers will rightly question why a band of Labour councillors is using public money to create a new tier of unnecessary management. I've used the strapline once a month bin collections is a rubbish idea. We can laugh at the pun, but the reality is that the announcement that Cardiff's Labour Council is thinking about only collecting black bags and black wheelie bins once a month is another slap in the face for the people of Splott. This and a further example of the Labour Council's constant mismanagement of public money. I promise to do my utmost to ensure that once a month collections do not happen. It is vital that grassroots sports are supported, and the decision to raise costs by as much as 146% for pitch fees in some cases would make no financial sense if they only caused amateur clubs to fold. Public health is high on the agenda at the moment, and the narrative is supposed to be about securing an Olympic legacy after last summer's games. Damaging taxes like this on sport will reduce participation, and in reality they won't make a penny either. I am concerned that grassroots sport is not safe in the council's hands. The decision taken in the Labour-run council's budget to raise the cost for pitch hire and changing rooms for grassroots sports has provoked anger and accusations that the future of amateur sport in the capital is being placed under threat. These hikes amount to little more than a tax on amateur sport. So that is the prepared statement from Daniel Mason, who is the Conservative candidate. Right then, let's get started properly now. And the first question, I think we'll just have it as a yes-no question, because when you hear the question, you'll know why. It comes from Babbling Mollick, and she asks, do you think it is important to live in the area you represent? So I'm just going to go the same order on this one.
Yeah, I can start. I think it is. I think it is because I lived there. I would say that, obviously, and most of us have lived there. I think it's just not only historically what's gone on in an area, it's what goes on the morning when you wake up, is the morning when you walk out onto the pavement, is the morning when you see what's going on around where you are. That's me.
Okay, on to Ed.
I think it's important to live in the area, yeah. I mean, I live now just outside the ward and have lived in there for many years. I mean, the comparison would be, is living there for 5 or 6 years more than, say, just living there for 6 months? What gives you a better insight into the area?
Okay then, on to Catherine.
I live in Adamstown, so it's a neighbouring ward to Splott. I've also lived in Splott as well, but we're campaigning for the Star Centre, which is Splott, Tremorfa, Adamstown and Roath. So all the community services in Splott, also the residents of Adamstown use as well. So I've got a direct relevance to where I live, as well as caring about the services in Splott.
Okay then, and finally Jamie.
Yes, I think it's important to live in the ward. I live in the ward. I live on Asgog Street, and when your bins aren't collected, my bins aren't collected. So it's just as annoying. So I think it's important to live there and experience what people locally experience.
Okay then. Right, we have had some questions come in. I will get to them very, very shortly. If you've got a question you really want me to ask, drop us a text on 07728 758 759, or you can email us on shouts@radiocardiff.org, or give us a call on the hotline on 02920 235 664. I can't promise I'll get to all of the questions, but certainly any comments you message into us, I'll definitely read out. Right then, the first question, and I'll give you a couple of minutes on this one actually. What do you think is the biggest issue affecting residents of Splott today? And I'm going to start with Jamie on that one.
Yes, thank you. I think the general environment, actually. I think they have a theory in New York which is called the broken window theory. If a window isn't fixed when it's broken, it adds to deterioration of the area, and people just accept that's the way it is from there on. And things get worse. The streets need cleaning up. Anyone who lives in the area knows there's dog mess everywhere. There's rubbish uncollected. There's black bags fly tipped on the side of the road. It isn't good enough. And with the council looking to cut street sweepers from the area and prioritise the city centre, I don't think that's good enough. And I want to protect those services for the area. Cleaning up the area is probably my top priority from the start.
Okay then, thank you for that, Jamie. We'll go to Catherine next.
Yeah, as I've said, there's two direct, very quick things that we need to save. That's the Splott Pool and also the Star Centre, because obviously the Labour Council has intimated that they want to shut the Star Centre to build a new hub on the Splott Pool site. And actually we need both those facilities in that community. The Star Centre is a very well-used leisure facility, and actually it covers a big area, and we need a swimming pool in the area as well, and actually we need to stop the cuts in both those areas. But in general, the whole issue around Splott and Tremorfa is under-resourced. There aren't enough facilities. We have an incinerator built on the doorstep, and it seems to be a dumping ground for all the ills of Cardiff, and that has been over a number of years. And people in Splott need to stand up and actually be counted in terms of what we need in that area. And it's better facilities, more facilities, and actually a future for that area.
Okay then, next we'll go to Ed, please.
I tend to think that the environment we live in is very important, so it's very good news, obviously, as Jamie said, that Splott's been one of the priorities for the new street cleaning teams for city centre and neighbouring city centre wards. It's also good news that no one's looking at monthly bin collections, so two positives that we want to get across straight away. I think on top of that, when you're talking about keeping the environment clean and you're talking about how that's done, you can't turn around and demand spend after spend after spend when nationally you're demanding cut after cut after cut, and people just will not stand for that sort of politics.
Okay, thank you, Ed. And finally, Ellis.
I think obviously Splott Pool, I'm going to say that because I'm a swimmer there and it means a lot to me if it goes. And not only just because of that, I think it's a big issue because when you go in there in the summer and you see the kids in there with their free swims and you see the elderly and the disabled using the pool, you don't see something that's about money, you see something that's actually at the heart of the community, and it's actually probably the best form of social care that you see within our ward, because It's not classed as social care, but it's acting very much like it. The environment, definitely. Why have we got Splott Park that looks like Splott Park? There's plenty of inner city neighbourhoods in New York, as you mentioned, and there's plenty of defensive ways that we can plant our parks. There's plenty of ways we can make a better environment. We don't have to walk through what looks like an industrial wasteland. Maybe we want to experience a pleasant environment, no matter where we're living. So.
Okay then, well, thank you for that. Right, I'm going to go to one of the questions because we've only got a few minutes until we need to go to the ad break. This one is coming from Gareth from Pengham Green. What does the panel think about the story on the front page of today's Echo about the council scrapping their pledge to keep council tax rises under 2% and the news that they might go up by as much as 5% next year? I'm going to go to Ed on this one first.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Obviously at this stage it's just a rumour because there's a set process the council has to use for setting council tax, and that's not gone through. It has to go through cabinet, Labour group, and of course the council. So I've no idea what the truth is to the rumour. What I would say is that the pledge was, apart from in exceptional times, the cuts and the damage that they're doing to Cardiff's communities are exceptional. And I would ask all the panel members to join in what Jamie said when he stood as a 2010 Lib Dem parliamentary candidate, that such cuts at such a pace will damage our communities and that these are exceptional times.
Okay then, next I'm going to go to Catherine, please.
Yeah, and obviously cuts damage our communities, but what we shouldn't do is make the poorest in society actually pay for the cuts. There is plenty of wealth in society, but what we need to do is all stand together and demand the funding in Wales that we need to provide those public services. And actually, if we don't do that, then councillors will just continue to vote through cuts. So we are talking about putting forward a balanced budget that would actually meet the needs of the people in Cardiff whilst we build up a mass campaign to mobilise to get the funding that we need from the Condemned government.
Okay, and over to Jamie, please.
Yeah, I think people have spotted this straight away. This is Russell Goodway's Labour Party all over again. The average council tax rise the last time Russell Goodway was in charge of the purse strings of Cardiff Council was 11%. That was the average the last time. Here we go again. People won't stand for it. When black bag collections are out to consultation to be collected monthly, and they are out to consultation, I don't know why you would consult on a proposal unless you actually had an intention to do it. Whilst you're reducing services, core services that the council providing, and upping council tax at the same time, people won't stand for it in Splott.
Okay, and Ellis, please.
Well, as a resident,
I
don't want to pay. We pay enough, and if I was in, I wouldn't vote for it. Yeah.
Well, that's a nice, simple answer. Does anyone want to come back on anything very quickly?
Yeah, I'll just quickly say that in your leaflet you say that the consultation is over, Jamie, and that the plans have been introduced for monthly collections.
No, I have not said.
There is no plans for monthly collections.
Well, why is it out to consultation? Answer that question.
There is a consultation on a number of issues, which is the whole of environmental services and the way that...
Ashley Govier is in favour of monthly collections. He's had many opportunities to rule it out in council, and he hasn't.
The good news, Jamie, is that I'm saying it wouldn't work now, and I'm ruling out.
But you're a Labour candidate, so if you're elected, you'll follow the Labour whip.
It's unworkable. It won't work for Splott. I'm very clearly saying to residents that this is a scare story that's brought about during elections to gain votes.
I've responded to the consultation. It's in the consultation. Answer the question. Why is it in the consultation if there's no intention to do it?
Because when you have a consultation, you don't rule things out in the consultation. You rule them out once people have made their views clear. That's why we have a consultation.
Is Ashley Govier, who's in charge of the department, is he in favour of monthly collections?
No.
So why has he put it out to consultation?
But very clearly, you can't just rule something, make a consultation that tells people what's going to happen. You ask people what they want, and then you listen to them, and then you follow the answers to the consultation. On your leaflet, it very clearly says the consultation has finished and black bag bin collections have been introduced. That is wrong.
If I may, at the last local elections, the Labour Party promised The Labour Party promised at the last local elections that they wouldn't increase council tax. Now we're hearing they're going to increase council tax. Can we trust anything the Labour Party say locally?
Candidate that said the Liberal Democrats
This
would
is
not
a local
cut.
election, it's not a parliamentary
You
election.
were a parliamentary candidate. It was your manifesto.
Okay, I tell you what, this argument will probably go on through the adverts, but we do need to go to the adverts now. Okay.
You're listening to News, Views and Interviews. The Way It Is in Cardiff with Jane Morris. Mondays to Thursdays, 1 till 1:30 on Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
We at Boiler Hut will fight the war on fuel poverty by giving free boiler upgrades to low-income households.
Hi, Nan. Oh, it's freezing in here.
I know, Carl, but I can't afford the heating during the day. It's too expensive.
Well, you shouldn't sit in the cold like this. I heard about Boiler Huts the other day.
Oh, yeah? What do they do?
They're a fully accredited company offering free boiler replacements to low-income households. With your state pension credit and other benefits, I'm sure that you'd qualify. Their boilers save up to £300 a year on energy bills, and they deal with their customers from start to finish.
That's great. How can I find out more?
It's easy. Text boiler to 60800.
What's that name again?
Boiler Hut. Visit our website to find out if you are eligible for our free boiler upgrades. That's boilerhut.co.uk. Be warm this winter. Boiler Hut.
Yo, you hungry? Well, come on over to my place. Low-cost Caribbean Kitchen, 80 Cruise Road, Cathays, Cardiff.
Experience the flavours of paradise. Delicious homemade patties, mouth-watering jerk chicken, ackee and saltfish, exotic fruit punches, curries, soups and stews to die for.
How the food tastes? Good?
Wicked! Also by day, English breakfast and lunches. Locust's Caribbean Kitchen, 80 Cruis Road, Cathays, Cardiff. To eat in or take away, call 07882 327 100. That's 07882 327 100.
Sexy Sundays at Mischiefs are about to get even sexier, with sexier music and sexier bar prices, all set in Mischief's sexy atmosphere. Join Radio Cardiff's finest DJs mixing it up every Sunday evening at Mischief's Cafe Bar, 36 James Street, Cardiff, with their seductive blend of soul, reggae, Motown, old school R&B and funk. The Sexy Sunday happy hours between 6 and 9, and free entry before 10. Sexy Sundays have all the right ingredients to make you want to come. For further details, visit mischiefs.co.uk.
You're listening to the News, Views, Interviews on Radio Cardiff, yeah!
Yes, you are indeed listening to the News, Views and Interviews special debate for the Splott by-election. Now, we have had a few more questions and comments coming in. Don't forget, if you've got a comment or question, drop us a text on 07728 758 759, or you can give us a call on the hotline on 02920 235 664, or you can email us on shouts@radiocardiff.org. I am going to read this comment out that's just come in. Unfortunately, they haven't left their name, but maybe as candidates, it might give you an idea of the way that a lot of people do certainly feel about politicians or would-be politicians. This text came in. How can you feel comfortable being within a room full of liars and have no respect for the people and just their payslip? But they didn't leave a name, so if you want to come back with your name, that's perfectly fine by us. Anyway, any more comments, like I said, drop us a text 07728 758 759. Anyway, there's lots more I want to get in, and we've only got half an hour left. So I'm going to kick off with Splott Pool. I know you've all mentioned it at some point or another, and it seems to be the issue closest to the hearts of the people of Splott. And I have had a number of questions sent in on the subject. But I think, first of all, I'm going to start off with, what do you think should happen to Splott Pool? I think I'm going to go to Ellis for this one first.
Well, I think there needs to be a more sustainable outlook to its kind of use, because I'm a user of it, and it's not heavily used. So it's used, and it's used for all the right reasons, but actually need a more proactive effort to actually make the local schools use the pool rather than use the international pool. There needs to be a better agenda for sustainability within it. Well, there's talk of the hub, so I said before that that we want to make sure that Splott Pool stays open during if they do build a hub, when they do build a hub, then that's going to take some time, and that we just don't close it down, because everybody needs to learn to swim. Everybody's got the right to learn to swim in their kind of local area, and I've said about this sort of social kind of contribution to the area. So I'm just going to say keep the damn thing open, don't close it.
Okay, then I'm going to go to Katrine next, please.
Thanks. I think if there was good news in terms of this idea for a proposal for a hub, I'm sure the Labour Council would have announced that before the election. So we're quite dubious about what the plans are going to be. And obviously I've been involved in the campaign to save Splott Pool, but also very concerned about the threat to the Star Centre as well, because I'm concerned that there needs to be goods facilities in the whole of the ward. And actually the health and well-being of all the residents of Splott is very important, and the opportunity to do sports and swimming is very important. So I will fight tooth and nail to keep both the Splott Pool open, but also the Star Centre open as well.
Okay then, and I'm going to go to Ed next, please.
I think what Ellis said is really important. It is about building a sustainable future for the pool, making sure that it's placed on a footing where it will still be around in 25, 30 years' time. There has been a real historic lack of investment in the pool. I mean, you look at it, the last time I can remember any money was spent on it really was after the letters started falling down and they placed a new sign above the door. So what we're trying to do, and this hub policy is a policy that's going right across Cardiff, is to place services on one site, yes, to save money because our budgets are dramatically reduced, but also to ensure that these services are on a good footing. That's what I believe the hub will do. It will place council advice services on the same site as the pool and the gym facilities there. It will secure it for the future. Just in answer to what Catherine said, this is easily checkable at the council. There was a ruling made by the council's legal department very clearly that no announcements about spend in Splott or in fact Riverside could be made during a by-election period for probably very good reason.
Okay then, Ed, and finally over to Jamie.
Yeah, I indeed agree with everything that's been said. Mostly, I would like to see the pool kept open. I would like to see the pool have a sustainable future. I would like to see investment, and I would like to see the Star Centre have equal investment. What I am concerned about, and I share Katrine's cynicism here, that the decision was due to be made in November. The public were told the decision was due to be made in November, and it was delayed till after the election. I think it's really cynical when politicians decide to make a decision, stop a decision, because of an election that was caused by a resignation of a Labour councillor. I think that's wholly unacceptable. And I think that there's a well-mobilised community. There's a Facebook group with 1,500 people on it. There's a real concern in the area, and those people have been left in the dark, and I think that's really unfair. And the only way that people are finding out bits of information at the moment is on Labour Party political leaflets, and that's unacceptable. Everyone else is in the dark apart from the Labour Party. They know what they're going to do, and we want to know what it is.
Right, okay, before I open that up, because I know there's going to be quite a lot of comeback on that, I do have another question that came in relation to that came in from one of our listeners. This one came from Denver Davis, and he wanted to know why is it being impossible to get answers from the Labour-controlled council on what their plans are for the hub pool and Star Centre. I know that Ed has already given a reason for that, but I think you've all got your own take on that. So I don't know who wants to come in now and carry on the debate. Yeah, Alice.
The reason why why there's not been given any answer to the hub or no hub, I call it. I agree with it was always at the very beginning of the by-election it said that the plans couldn't be released and the decision was going to be November for it. So I think that might be, that is a valid reason. But also within the sort of whole mess of spending cuts that are happening within the council, nothing's 100%, is it? We're not 100% until the spade goes into the ground and the foundations go in there and. I think that's the reason. There's still a little bit of not sure what's going on, and the only reason I say that is because I want to make sure that while that's going on, that there still is a pool, if you know what I mean, so that doesn't close and we don't get the empire effect.
Ed, do you want to pick it up?
I don't think there's much I can add, really. I mean, Ellis's points again are that it was delayed. There was a reason given. It wasn't politicians, of course, that took that judgment, and it's unfair to suggest the monitoring officer at the council is anyway political. But what I would say is we've got a situation now where we've got a candidate demanding no more money brought in for council tax, that the reduced amounts of money coming in from the central government are right, and no more cuts are made in Cardiff. It's not logical. You have to look at our plan for the pool, which secures its future, and say, that's hopefully it will be a positive step. But you have to ask questions of anyone that supports no more income coming in, no more taxation of people, and the reduction of central government cuts, budgets, and more spend in the ward. It's totally unrealistic, isn't it? And it's dishonest.
Okay, who wants to come back on that, Jamie?
I knew you want to hear my response. I think it's about priorities, isn't it? Anyone who runs the council at the moment, it's about priorities. And spending £1 million on a new tier of management is not the right way to go about it. The leader of the council has a new post in place, which is a political advisor under another name. £80,000 a year that person's earning. I wonder how much we could spend with that on Splott Pool. It's about prioritising services and not wasting on middle management.
Okay, Catherine, do you want to?
Yeah, and I think what stopped Splott Pool being closed in the first place was the mass outcry in Splott and the mass campaign that was mobilised at very short notice as soon as it was announced that Splott Pool was going to be closing last year. That's what stops it closing. That's what we will continue to do to stop both Splott Pool being downgraded. And I'm equally dubious as Alice is that until a spade's in the ground, I wouldn't trust any improvements. But also, there's a growing opposition to any cuts to the Star. Both of those facilities could be massively improved, bring in revenue, and actually it is about mass campaigning to demand the money that we need to provide these services, and I think that is something that politicians lack. As a trade unionist, I've never accepted what I've been offered. I always fight for more, and my members back me in doing that, and that's how we win. If you accept the cuts, then actually you're doing Tories' dirty work for them.
If I may pick up the point about spades in the ground, that's a term that was used by Labour politicians in a public meeting earlier in the year, that spades would be in the ground by September. Yeah, indeed. So the spades weren't in the ground in September. We're now almost in December. Nothing's happened.
No one wants to come back on that. No, okay. I tell you what, I've got a couple more questions that I really want to get in, and I'm very, very aware of the time. Right. Another question that actually came in. It was something I did want to ask you, but they probably put it better than I would have done. What are your views on children and youth services within the area, and what are your plans for the future? Okay, we'll go with Alice. You're up for that one.
I've been thinking about this a lot, obviously, because I've got children in the ward, and you watch them. Most of them are kind of grown up now and sort of moved on to wherever they're doing, and sort of growing up as a child in Splott, and the kind of facilities are on offer to the children. Obviously, Splott Pool is one of them, but if there is to be all this kind of infrastructure change and this kind of hubisation of Splott, where we all sort of go to this one area, then what do we do with the other spaces that we've got? What do we do with East Moors? What do we do with Moorlands? What do we do with we know what the proposals are for the Star, but I East Moors is a wonderful building. It's a beautiful building that in any other ward, whether it was in Canton, it would be Chapter. If it was in, you get these kind of beautiful kind of sort of community art centres, and that's what I would do. If I was elected, I would work on change. If the hub went ahead, I would work on making East Moors a community art centre for the youth of Splott, so they can express themselves in the same way as they do in the Rubicon and all the rest of them.
Okay, then. I'm going to go to Jamie next on this one, please.
Yeah, I think it's quite a simple one, really, in a way, in that the services for young people need to be led by young people. I think involving the young people in the area in the schemes, rather than sort of centralised council saying, OK, here's what young people do, this is what you like to do, enjoy it, we'll invest some money in it. I think it's involving the young people of the area, and what comes out of that sometimes is some fantastic schemes. And you mentioned East Moors, I think the work that goes on there is fantastic, but it's led by young people.
I don't usually throw in a comment here, but I've got to do it anyway because, obviously I've got a mother of two, a teenager and a young child, so I'm affected both ends of the scale. But, you're talking about talking to young people and getting them to have their input. Thing is, if you're talking to a young person, you're saying, right, what do you want? They'll come up with this brilliant scheme, but they want it now. They don't want it in 2 years' time. They don't want it in 5 years' time. They want it now.
You can tell you're a parent, yeah. Yeah, good point. And I think you've got to be able to sort of celebrate success as you go along. You've got to have sort of milestones as you go along, because if you just say, in 10 years' time, we might have a good service here, you've got to go, okay, 6 months, what have we achieved? 6 months, what have we achieved? And build on it every year.
Okay, and Catherine?
Yeah, you've only got to speak to some of the council workers that provide services, leisure services or youth support services, that actually have got loads of ideas of things that could be done better and actually improvements to those services, and actually, giving opportunities to young people to have those facilities in those areas. And obviously, I think East Moors is an extremely important centre for that, as well as the Star and Splott pool. But also you need to give young people a future as well. And I think the comments about slashing the council workforce by 5,000, in even more jobs to go in the area, in an area of high unemployment, is really not a great way forward. And actually what we need is jobs, a future, but also things to do in the evenings and free time as well.
We have had a comment come in as well, which I will go to before we go to Ed. This was when we were talking about Splott Pool, but it's very personal to what we're talking about now. It says, you're all talking about Splott Pool, but what about the Splott Play Centre? It's a vital free service for children and young people. So we go over to Ed now.
Yeah, services for young people, obviously very important, and how you invest in them. But the key thing about childhood is it's a platform, isn't it? For a platform for what you achieve in the rest of your life. And I am very, very worried about the impacts of certain policies on our young people and how they will, and the impacts they'll have and how they succeed in life. Take the bedroom tax. If you live in a household that is affected by this bedroom tax, a few more facilities and a few more here and there in the ward is important. But if that policy is driving your household into abject poverty, which it is with many households, then it's not really enough, is it? If we know that children that grow up in poverty, children that have poor access to food, children who can no longer afford to put the heating on in households, we know their life chances are fundamentally damaged. And it's not just about addressing services here or there. We must address this overridingly more important issue of the damage these coalition government policies are doing to our community and the life chances of our youngsters.
Okay, does anyone want to come back on that?
Can I come in on that?
Okay, Jamie.
On the bedroom tax, I agree. I think it is a flawed policy. I think the principle of having the right amount of bedrooms in your council house for the right amount of people is lovely. We'd all like to have that situation. But the fact is, no houses have been built. There's a housing shortage. There isn't small houses. There isn't small one-bedroom places for people. So it isn't going to work. And I think, it's sad. I like to agree with Ed on that. However, Labour introduced it in the private sector. So if you rent from a private landlord, you were hit with a bedroom tax under the Labour government. That's never said. And I think that was flawed then, and I think it's flawed now. So unless we start building some small houses and start building more houses and deal with the housing crisis, the policy isn't going to work, and it is going to lead to poverty, and I agree.
Okay, Catherine?
Yeah, and I think certainly the issue around affordable homes is obviously a very important issue in Cardiff, and I think certainly people are living at home until their 30s because they can't afford to move out. But actually, throwing people out of their homes, evicting them for bedroom tax arrears is not the right way forward. It costs more, and actually people need decent homes as well. And that's what the council should be doing, is building affordable homes, and not evicting anybody for the bedroom tax arrears or council tax arrears that are building up. People are too poor to actually be able to afford. People are talking about, can I afford my food, or can I afford my fuel bill at the moment? It's that level of poverty that we're talking about, and actually, that sort of supportive approach from the council would be very welcome in terms of campaigning to actually get rid of the bedroom tax as a whole. all.
I mean, we were starting off talking about young people. We seem to have moved on to the bedroom tax. So while we're at the bedroom tax, I know the council was given a very small pot of money, not enough by a long chalk, but to alleviate the bedroom tax this year. And that was spent on rehoming people. Yeah. Sorry, I'll come to you in a minute. I was just wondering if there's a pot of money next year to do it. What would you spend that money on? I'll go to Ed.
You've got to spend it on alleviating the effects of the bedroom tax, haven't you? I mean, the reason I raised this policy was because of the damage it's doing to families and young people, but it's obviously doing the damage to a lot of people in the communities. Catherine's right to mention evictions. The council have never evicted anyone for the bedroom tax. People should come to their local councillors, speak to them. No one's going to be evicted. We need a policy where people can, even if people can only contribute something, no one will be evicted. But the reality is that Cardiff Council cannot make right the mistakes of national government continuously. At some point, national government and the parties in national government have to take their share or the blame for policies that are wrong.
Okay, right. I do need to try and drag it back to young people because our messenger has come back in again. Thank you for reading my comments on police services. But why has this turned into the bedroom tax? All councillors need to understand that the UN Convention on the Rights of a Child and what they have planned is highly illegal. I'm assuming they're talking about the Splott Play Centre on that one. Anyone want to come in on that? Anyone?
To close it?
I've not heard any proposals so I genuinely have no.
Right.
Or in
Okay.
relationship to the play centre being next to, built onto the Splott Pool site.
Right, I tell you what, listener, if you can just, text in again or give us a call on the hotline on 02920 235 664 and very quickly give us a little bit more information on that because our candidates don't seem to know what it is, what's going on over there. We have only got 6 minutes left, so if you can get back as soon as possible. In the meantime, I suppose a lot of people have spoken about the state of the streets. I know you've all mentioned it, but there does seem to be a lot of rubbish flying around everywhere. And I can remember when the streets of Splott were clean, you saw the street cleaners out most days because we do have problems. We've got schools and we've got industrial centres and a lot of the rubbish actually gets blown across Splott. But, and that wasn't very long ago that you had street cleaners on the streets. I can't remember the last time I saw one on my street. So what are you going to do about the rubbish that is out there now on the streets of Splott if you get elected?
Obviously, on Habershon Street, we're on a main thoroughfare of that wind tunnel of rubbish. I wouldn't like to say how much stuff I've taken out the front of and the amount of dog mess that we've stepped in on the way to our car is shocking. That usual suspects campaign is great in the sense that you see the yellow stickers on every lamppost, and you actually see there's this campaign that you can't drop fag butts and you can't do this, can't do that, but nobody does anything about it. It's just totally ignored. It's total apathy towards it. So I've put in the sort of manifesto that should be enforced. It's easy to enforce a parking fine when someone's away, and it's non-confrontational, isn't it? Because they're not normally by the car, and then the council get the money and they spend the money. But actually, when it comes out to there's a lot of sort of personal ownership of that rubbish that's being and one fine, 2 fines, people soon think twice about doing it. To be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ed, you on the mic.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. It is essentially about enforcement. It's really, obviously it's disappointing it has to be like that because people have to take some personal responsibility for these things, but it is about enforcement. We have the council have recently trained PCSOs, so they are now able to enforce this stuff, as are park rangers now. I saw the statistics the other day for dog fouling fines in Splott, and I think in the last 5 years there's been 4 fines, 3 of which have been in the last year. So we've got a way to go, but it does seem that in the last year more people have been fined. But I'd like to see a lot more.
Actually, on the dog fouling, we did moan for very many years here on Radio Cardiff about dog fouling. fouling in Splott, and I have found that certainly over the last year and a half, it has certainly gone down in the area where I live in Splott. So maybe, we need to get more people listening to us moaning about it on the radio. Very quickly, Catherine and Jamie, because I do want to come to closing statements, okay?
I do get the impression, and I think many people do, that there's priorities for the best areas of Cardiff to get street cleaners, and I think certainly, probably Splott and Tremorfa is very low on the priority levels for the council, and I think certainly, there's very good ways of keeping streets clean, and actually we need those industrial ways of keeping the streets clean because of all the industrial impact in that area. But the biggest polluter as well would be the incinerator as well, which nobody's actually mentioned as well. So everything is dumped in Splott and Tremorfa.
Yeah, unfortunately we haven't got time to get to the incinerator today as well. It was on my list. Finally, Jamie.
Yeah, I think if I was elected, I would fight to prioritise inner city areas like Splott. We need more hand litter pickers, not just mechanical street sweepers, because they don't get round when there's lots of cars in the way. I'd rather see more litter pickers on the streets than senior managers earning a lot of money in County Hall. Environmental enforcement important, finding people, catching people, and dog wardens. And there's also a big issue with stray dogs as well as irresponsible dog owners.
Okay then, we have had one more. They come back from our listener. They can't give any more information if they've been told it's confidential, but out of several place centres, Splott and Adamsdown and Riverside are for closure due to cuts and to save money. So we won't discuss that now, but just so you, as listeners, as candidates, and maybe we can address that at another time. We have only got a minute and a half left to go, so I'm going to have to ask you for 30 seconds, just very quickly, why our listeners should vote for you. And I'm going to go to Jamie first.
Thank you. If I'm elected, I will work hard. I will give it 100% commitment. I live in Splott. I think that's important. I'll fight the monthly bin collection proposals. I'll fight the council tax hikes that Russell Goodway and co are continuing with. And I will fight for Splott Pool and the Star Centre to continue to have investment and to be a sustainable future.
Okay, thank you for that, Jamie. And next up, Catherine.
I've been fighting the cuts since 2004 under a Labour government and also under the Condemned government, and that's what we need to be doing now, is making sure we're fighting the cuts. The council is looking at £50 million worth of cuts in the city. We need people to stand up and say this is too much. Actually, we need those services. We need the facilities in our communities. And as I said earlier, if the banks can be bailed out because they're too big, actually our communities are too important to fail, and we need to invest in those and stop the cuts.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Can we go to Ed next, please?
Yeah, if elected, we will continue to do what we have done, which is to mitigate the effects of these appalling cuts on our communities, continue to work to bring in more street cleaning to the ward, to ensure that the environment we all live in is the best environment it can be.
Okay, thank you, Ed. And Ellis, very quickly.
Well, just to almost, I know it sounds a bit surreal, but to take the kind of party politics out of a local election, really, and then return it back to local people. I don't think party politics should be involved. It should be just local people standing and representing their ward and doing their best to improve the ward. That's the reason why I'm doing it.
Okay, thank you, Alice, for that. Right, well, I just want to thank all of you for coming in today. I've had so many more questions. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Don't forget, if you are a Riverside resident and you want to hear from your candidates for your by-election too, you need to stay tuned to the Sam Shorty Show, which is coming up next, and also Georgina on the Breakfast Show over the next few days. I'll be back with you tomorrow with the Friday show. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Radio Cardiff.